The Italian sun is a physical weight on your shoulders. It is 71 BC and the heat rising from the dry earth distorts the air around you. You are standing in a formation of 5,000 men, a legion of Rome's finest, yet there is absolute terrifying silence. You are not facing the enemy, you are not looking into the eyes of Spartacus or his rebel army, you are looking at your own commanders. The smell of the legion is overwhelming: unwashed wool, oiled leather, and the sharp, metallic tang of fear. Beside you stands your contubernium. These 8 men are not just soldiers, they are your family. You have shared bread with them, you have marched hundreds of miles with them, you have saved their lives in the shield wall, you know the names of their wives, you know the dreams they have for their children. But today, that brotherhood is being weaponized against you. Down the line you hear it, the rhythmic crunch of boots on gravel. The centurions are walking the ranks, pointing, they are counting. The horror here isn't physical torture, it is simple arithmetic. The General Marcus Crassus has ordered the ultimate disciplinary sanction. He is reviving an ancient, forgotten punishment to purge the cowardice from the ranks. The centurion stops in front of your group. He doesn't shout, he doesn't look angry, he looks clinical. He holds out a helmet. Inside there are small wooden tokens. You realize the nightmare scenario with clarity. The enemy isn't the man with the sword across the field, it is the law of probability. One of you will pull the marked token, that man will die, but the true horror is not his death, it is the executioner's. If your brother pulls the black stone, the legion will not kill him, you will. The helmet is thrust toward your chest. Your hand shakes as you reach into the darkness of the metal bowl. The world narrows down to the sensation of smooth wood against your fingertips. You aren't just drawing a lot, you are deciding which part of your soul dies today. We have been conditioned by Hollywood to view the Roman legion through a romantic filter. Movies like Gladiator or The Eagle sell us the image of the noble soldier, men bound by honor, fighting shoulder to shoulder against the barbarian hordes to protect their civilization. We imagine a brotherhood where every man would gladly die to save the man next to him. This is a comfortable fiction. The reality of the Roman military machine was far colder. The legion did not run on loyalty, it ran on terror. The Roman soldier was certainly afraid of the Gauls or the Carthaginians across the field, but he was significantly more afraid of his own centurion. The secret to Rome's dominance wasn't just better steel or superior tactics. It was a penal code so severe that it made death in battle seem like the safer option. Ancient historians like Polybius and Josephus marveled at this. They observed that while other armies fought for loot or tribal pride, the Romans fought because the consequences of failure were administratively planned and absolutely fatal. Discipline was not a virtue, it was a survival mechanism. To understand the depth of this brutality, we have to reclaim a word that has lost its meaning: decimation. In modern English, we use decimate to mean to destroy a large portion of something, like a hurricane decimating a coastline. But the Latin root decimatio is far more specific and mathematical. It does not mean total destruction, it means the removal of the tenth. It was not a chaotic slaughter, it was a specific, legal, and religiously sanctioned ritual designed to restore order through calculated trauma. The year is 71 BC and the Roman Republic is facing an existential humiliation. This is the height of the Third Servile War. Spartacus, a Thracian gladiator, is not just defeating Roman armies, he is embarrassing them. For 2 years, the legions sent to crush the slave rebellion have been routed. The standard of Roman infantry, iron discipline, and stoic courage has evaporated. Troops are breaking rank, men are throwing down their shields in panic. Entire cohorts are fleeing before the enemy even makes contact. To the Senate in Rome, this is not just a military failure, it is a moral rot spreading through the veins of the Republic. Enter Marcus Licinius Crassus. He is the wealthiest man in Rome, a real estate mogul and political power broker, but he lacks the one thing money cannot buy: military glory. When the Senate turns to him in desperation, handing him command of the disgraced legions, Crassus accepts, but he does not bring new weapons or better rations. He brings a cold, terrifying diagnosis. Crassus realizes that the legions aren't losing because Spartacus is a genius. They are losing because the Roman soldiers are no longer afraid of their commanders. To fix the army, he determines he must become a monster worse than the enemy. He invokes the supreme authority known as Imperium. In the city of Rome, a citizen has rights. He can appeal to the tribunes, he can demand a trial. But once a soldier steps outside the city walls and enters the camp of a general, those rights vanish. The general holding Imperium is not a magistrate, he is a god of war. He holds the power of life and death over every man under his command, with no jury, no appeal, and no oversight. Crassus decides to use this power to its absolute, bloody limit. He dusts off a punishment that hasn't been used in generations, signaling that the time for mercy has ended. The punishment begins with administrative segregation. The condemned cohort, roughly 480 men, is marched away from the main body of the army. They are not treated as soldiers anymore, they are treated as raw material to be processed. The first order is given: strip. They are forced to remove their military cloaks and unbuckle their belts. In the Roman world, the belt is the symbol of the soldier's status. To lose it is to be socially castrated. Standing unarmed and unarmored, they are reduced to shivering civilians. Then the bureaucracy takes over. Centurions move through the crowd with tablets dividing the men into rigid clusters. You do not get to choose your group, you are assigned 10 men per cluster, no exceptions. The mechanism of selection is known as the Sortitio. It is a lottery of pure, unthinking chance. Rank offers no protection. A decorated veteran with 10 years of service stands in the same circle as the raw recruit who dropped his shield. The brave man has the exact same statistical probability of death as the coward who actually ran. A helmet is brought to the center of each circle. Inside there are 10 tokens, usually stones or pieces of wood. 9 are white, 1 is black. The psychological torture lies in the procedure. It is slow. The officer holds the helmet high. Each man must step forward, reach in, and withdraw a stone. He must hold it in his closed fist until all 10 men have drawn. There is no screaming yet. There is only the sound of heavy breathing and the clicking of stones against metal. It is a game of chance where the buy-in is your life. As you stand there, clutching the unseen stone in your sweating palm, you are praying to the gods not for victory, but for the statistical probability that the man standing next to you, your friend, is the one holding the black stone. The fists open, the stones are revealed. Across the line, 48 men stare at the black token in their palm. The other 432 men exhale in a rush of terrifying relief. But the relief is a trap. The true punishment of Crassus is not the death of the 10th man, it is the corruption of the 9 survivors. The centurions do not step forward to perform the execution. They step back. They pass heavy wooden cudgels, clubs usually used for firewood or tent poles, to the survivors. The order is given. The 9 men who just drew the white stones must now form a circle around the man who drew the black one. This is the fustuarium. The psychological horror is absolute. The man standing in the center is not a stranger. He is your messmate. He is the man who guarded your sleep the night before. Now you are holding a club and the centurion is watching you with a hand on his own gladius. The message is clear: if you do not strike with intent, you will join him. The violence that follows is chaotic and desperate. There is no martial grace here. There is no clean sword thrust. The air is filled with a sound that haunts the memory of every man present. It is not the clean ring of steel on steel. It is the dull, heavy rhythm of blunt force. The condemned men do not fight back. They are often too paralyzed by the betrayal to raise their hands. The sound of the camp shifts. It is not the roar of battle but the industrial noise of execution. The survivors strike harder and faster, not out of anger but out of a desperate need to end the suffering quickly. When the noise finally stops, there is no ceremony. In the Roman military, a fallen soldier is usually treated with reverence, but these men are not soldiers anymore, they are refuse. The bodies are dragged away, denied the sacred rites of burial and left to the carrion birds. They do not die as heroes of Rome, they die as examples of the general's will. You are standing over the body of Valerius. The wooden club is still in your hand, vibrating from the impact. You look at your knuckles, they are white, gripping the weapon so tight the blood has left your skin. 10 minutes ago, Valerius was the man who shared your ration of salt. He was the one who pulled you out of the mud at the Battle of Picenum. Now he is a broken shape in the dirt and you are the one who broke him. You remember the moment perfectly. It plays in your mind on a loop. You remember the way he looked at the black stone in his hand, then up at you. There was no hatred in his eyes, there was only a terrifying, quiet acceptance. He didn't beg, he simply knelt, looked you dead in the eye and whispered 3 words, "Make it quick." And you did. You struck him not out of anger but out of a desperate, twisted mercy. You killed him to save him from the others. But Crassus is not done with you. The killing was just the beginning of the sentence. Night falls and the legion retires to the safety of the fortified camp. But not you, the survivors of the Decimatio are banished. You are ordered to sleep outside the walls in the zone of death. You are exposed to the elements, the wolves, and the scouts of Spartacus. You are defenseless, stripping away the very protection the legion is supposed to provide. When rations are distributed, you are not given wheat, the food of Roman men. You are handed a sack of raw barley. This is livestock feed. The message is brutal and clear. You are no longer a citizen. You are a beast of burden. As you chew the dry, bitter grain in the cold darkness, something inside you shifts. The fear that made you run from Spartacus is gone. It has been replaced by a hollow, cold void. You don't care if you live or die anymore. In fact, you prefer death. You want the enemy to come. You want to charge the slave army, not for victory, but because the only way to silence the sound of the club hitting Valerius is to drown it out with the scream of battle. Crassus has succeeded. He has stripped away your humanity and left behind a weapon. Did this calculated insanity work? The answer, terrifyingly, is yes. When Crassus finally marched his legions against Spartacus again, the dynamic of the war had inverted. The Roman soldiers did not fight with patriotism. They did not fight for glory. They fought with a suicidal intensity born of pure terror. They threw themselves at the rebel lines with a ferocity that stunned the enemy, because for a Roman soldier under Crassus, death on the battlefield was a kindness compared to the lottery waiting for them back at camp. They had learned the lesson: the enemy might kill you, but the general will break you. However, the Decimatio remained a rare horror. It was the nuclear option of the ancient world, a weapon too destructive to use casually. It was reserved for moments when the very soul of the army was at stake. History records only a few other significant instances. Mark Antony revived it during his disastrous campaign against the Parthians, desperate to hold his crumbling army together. Even Augustus, the first emperor, utilized it in the early days of his reign to purge mutinous units. But as the Republic died and the empire stabilized, the practice began to fade. Later generations of Romans viewed it with a mix of awe and revulsion. As the empire softened, the idea of bludgeoning one's own messmates to death became too brutal even for a society that enjoyed gladiatorial combat. But perhaps the most telling reaction came from Rome's enemies. The barbarians, the Gauls, the Germans, the Parthians were accustomed to violence. They executed prisoners, they sacrificed captives to their gods. But they could not understand Decimatio. To them, killing your own elite soldiers to make a statistical point was a form of madness. They didn't realize that this madness was exactly why Rome conquered the world. Rome was the only civilization willing to be crueler to its own sons than it was to its enemies. When we look back at Rome, we see the white marble of the Senate and the golden eagles of the legions. We see the glory of a civilization that brought order to a chaotic world. But we often refuse to look at the foundation upon which that marble was laid. The Roman Empire was not built on the loyalty of its soldiers, it was built on their blood. The Pax Romana, the famous Roman peace, was not a natural state of affairs. It was an artificial construct purchased with absolute internal violence. To conquer the known world, Rome first had to conquer the most basic human instinct, the will to survive. They replaced the fear of death with the fear of the general. They turned men into machines by proving that the only safe place on earth was directly behind a shield, marching forward. In the end, the true symbol of Roman discipline is not the gladius or the pilum. It is a small, insignificant object lying in the dust of an Italian field. It is a single white stone, sitting quietly next to a splintered heavy club. A silent witness to the fact that the greatest empire in history was forged by men who were more afraid of their brothers than they were of their enemies. History is written by the victors, but the nightmares are carried by the survivors. If you want to uncover the true cost of the ancient world, subscribe to the Scarlet Archives.